All right, this is a bizarre topic we're going to talk about today, but it kind of does tie into the fitness palace of love and going to the gym because there are stereotypical approaches to it. But I saw this article, which is men might refuse to give up meat because it threatens their masculinity, according to a new study. Now, we're not going to talk about the giving up meat stuff. We should be protecting the climate. You know, that's not what this video is about. Because instead, we're going to talk about masculinity and really how silly it has become. I mean, the article itself does say men are less likely to go vegetarian or vegan because of, wait for it, toxic masculinity. Yep, according to a recent study conducted by some people in Australia, men find meat eating more manly. The research discovered that if these men were to reduce or eliminate meat from their diets, then it would threaten the very fabric of what it is to be a man. The study consisted of an eye-watering 4,897 men and women and investigated their attitudes towards all this, obviously. The study from ANU referenced previous research from 2021 that revealed how nearly 3/4 of male respondents would rather have a decade taken off their life than give up meat. I want to make it very clear, I do not fall into this category. Give me 10 extra years. Our findings support previous research suggesting that it is not simply being male that leads to greater meat consumption behaviors. Instead, self-identified levels of masculinity may explain apparent gender differences, with more masculine men more resistant to reducing their meat intake. Interestingly, we also found some evidence that women's femininity was similarly associated with meat-related attitudes as men's masculinity. That's the hardest sentence ever. Thus, self-rated gender typicality can help us understand the gendered nature of meat consumption and low prevalence of veganism in Australia. Once again, it's just odd. Then they make a joke about Popeye and how he ate spinach even though he's jacked. But here's the thing. I don't want to tie into the meat stuff. I just really want to focus on masculinity and less so femininity, because again, I don't think that makes much sense coming from me. Although I guess it does kind of tie into my argument in the sense that I would go as far to say this. If you feel like you need to be a masculine man, which is totally fine, by the way, you need to find your own way in this life and you need to be comfortable and you need to embrace the attributes that give you confidence and self-worth. But again, I think that kind of ties in here. But just doubling back round a second, if you feel like you need to eat meat to achieve that, I would argue that there's something else going underneath the surface, because there is toxic masculinity is a problem term to throw out there now, because people, they kind of extrapolate in different ways and they use it for agendas and all these terms that you hear on social media. But it can be a problem, right? If you are somewhat of an effeminate male and you feel like you're going to get bullied or you have been bullied and it's going to knock your confidence being who you want to be, then it's a massive problem. Because as I've talked about 1,000 times before, it doesn't matter if you're a man, doesn't matter if you're a woman, doesn't matter if you're an elephant, doesn't matter if you're a goat, doesn't matter if you're a fish, fishing around in the sea. What you need to do is you need to find that person that you're comfortable with. You need to find your own inner voice, and that's the kind of person that you need to embrace. Now, it's not this easy. It's not like turning on and off on a light switch. When you do start to find it and you do start to feel more comfortable and you do start to feel better about yourself, and again, get that internal self-worth, we all have some form of external self-worth. So if I look at you and go, wow, Barry, you look great today, you're going to feel better about yourself, but that will diminish and that will lower. If you can tell yourself that and truly believe it, then you're going to have self-worth for a longer period of time. But as soon as you start associating traits like masculinity and femininity, cannot say those words, to tie into that, I kind of think you're on a slippery slope to nothing, because it doesn't matter. If you're a masculine man, awesome. If you're a feminine man, awesome. If you're a masculine female, awesome. If you're a feminine female, awesome. All of these things work, and all of them make us human beings. And what we should be doing is embracing people's differences and embracing people's similarities. And the last thing we should be doing is criticizing that or creating this kind of weird little pool where we go, that's wrong and that's right. As long as the way you're behaving isn't affecting anybody else in a negative way, and I mean an actual negative way, like you're harming them, not someone goes, well, I don't like it, well, that's your problem, you go sort it out, you absolute goober, then you should just do it. You absolutely should. Now, I don't have anything I can actually explain to you specifically, but I do know that when I turned 30, something happened in my brain when all of a sudden I was like, you know what, this is who I am, this is what I like to do, I'm not going to worry about that stuff anymore. I suggest accepting that I was a bit goofy and a bit of a moron, maybe one of those, and I mean moron as a positive term. Maybe I should use the word ridiculous, or just a bit of a fool, maybe a little bit of a joker, a little bit of a jester. But as soon as I appreciate that and accept that, it just made life so much easier. Like throughout my 20s, I gave up drinking beer, alcohol. We talked about this before. When I was 18 years of old, I got really drunk. I didn't like it. And I just knew deep down in my tum-tum that it wasn't for me. I mean, the fact I'm saying tum-tum ties into my point. I have no shame. I just don't care. Throughout my 20s, I had mad social anxiety about it. I remember when I started one job, I won't name names or what I did because I'm sure this person didn't mean anything by it and they may be trying to protect me. Let's look on the bright side of life. But I remember somebody saying to me, oh, you're not going to get anywhere in this job if you don't drink. So I was like, well, I'm not going to drink. I've made my mind up. And again, I had to go on this horrible walkway of social anxiety. Well, when I did go out with these people, well, it was twofold. Either one, I would just buy myself a drink and not actually drink it, but people could see that I had a bottle in my hand or whatever it may be, so they just assumed that I was, or I just grinned and braved it. And was it fun? No. Was it always something that was in my mind before these things happened? Yes. Did it take a lot to do that? Yes, it did, but I've always been quite a tenacious character, but I still wouldn't want to wish that on anybody else. We just use alcohol because we are there. It's kind of different now. It's more acceptable. Not that I'm like ancient or anything like that, but I am in my mid-30s, so I guess we're talking about 15 years ago. It was less socially acceptable. It just was, or that's the kind of way that I determine it now. But nobody should be going through that. You should be able to say to somebody, I don't drink, whatever it may be, and it's not a problem. But I think what actually usually happens is when you tell someone that you don't drink, if they find themselves relying on alcohol in a social situation, they then go through this whole internal process where they're saying, well, wait a minute, why don't they need to rely on booze? And I do. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. Again, as long as you're not completely getting yourself into some kind of health situation because you're drinking too much alcohol. If alcohol is the thing you need in order just to take the edge off, then that's what you should do. Again, healthy and happiness and moderation and balance are always going to be key. But if that doesn't work for you and you want to operate in a different field, then you should be able to do that as well. So I always kind of thought that. I thought, eventually I got there. I kind of felt like they were being judged based on their own worries. Why can't I do that? But there's no right or wrong. It absolutely doesn't matter. And it does tie back into these traits because, the new series of The Last of Us is coming out. I've forgotten all the damn names because I'm an idiot. Obviously, we had Joel and Ellie in season 1, brilliant show. And then we've got the character that gets introduced in season 2 or part 2 in the games. The name, you'll be screaming it at me. I know I just can't remember now. And she's jacked, right? And she's muscly. We did a video on this years ago. And every single person, not every single person, but these crazy people came out and just like, meh, I don't like it. And had all these reasons why you couldn't have a jacked female. But actually, when you read into it and you got past the subtext, people just didn't think this was a very feminine trait. That is so, I don't even want to say that's so archaic because it shouldn't have been happening in the archaic times. You cannot associate going to the gym with being a man, and you cannot associate playing with a Barbie to women. It's too insular and it's too claustrophobic and it's too corridor thinking because let's just treat it as something as innocent as that, right? You want to play with a Barbie, then go play with your Barbie. If playing with your Barbie makes you happy and you ain't doing it in a creepy way, then playing with a Barbie is what you should do. And if you are going to the gym and you want to be a massive jacked person, that's what you should do. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your gender is or how you identify. I am behind you. I want you to go in there and absolutely smash it. So again, if you're taking your masculinity and say, well, I must be able to, have to eat meat in order to feel like a man. I'm like, well, one, I don't even know what that would even mean. But two, you cannot be happy. You just can't be happy. You should not be hanging your hat and you should not be putting so much importance on things that you're sticking in your mouth. That shouldn't determine who you are as a character or who you are as a human being. Why I decided to make this video, I don't know, but I just read that article and I was just like, I just find this nuts. So maybe there is a conversation we can have here. Maybe I've said something that is quite uneducated and you can educate me. Because that's what I'm always trying to do day to day. But I suppose overall it just gets to the point where I would love to, and I get this white bald guy, what do I know about it? I shouldn't even have an opinion. 9 times out of 10 could put me on the box of a video game in like a soldier cover, nobody would even blink an eye. But it would be wonderful if we could just get to the point now, no matter how you want to live your life, again, as long as you're doing it in an innocent and a pure way, that's what we should do. Doesn't matter who you want to be partnered with, doesn't matter which gender you want to assign yourself to or whatever the right word would be, your pronouns, how you want to dress. It just shouldn't matter, man. Life is way too hard and life is way too complicated as it is without all these other. So if you find something that makes you happy and actually puts you at ease with the world, then we all should be embracing it. And I get it's not that easy, as we talked about earlier. You just can't walk through a door, which is why we need to have specific days, and we need to have specific weeks, and we need to have specific chats, and we need to have specific conversations about this, because we're not quite there yet. So you can't just ignore it. It's like everything, oddly, what a weird tie-in this is, but it's like everything with the Holocaust. Like, you can't just stop talking about the Holocaust because you don't like it. You talk about the Holocaust, otherwise the Holocaust can happen again. Same with wars, same with terrible things we've done in history. And it's the same with people that I suppose would say they are in a minority. We need to get to a point when there's no majorities or minorities. We're just all living our lives, and however you choose to live is awesome. I did a really cool chat with, I'll make sure there's a link down there, with a girl called Alicia the other day about body dysmorphia. And ultimately, some people are going to really struggle to say say to somebody, I have body dysmorphia. But wouldn't it be great if we got to a world where you just could? Or if somebody said to you, how are you today? And you don't say not well in like a misery guts kind of a way, just because you're being morose, which you're allowed to be too. But you could just say to someone, oh, I've broken my leg, I feel terrible. Oh, I've broken my brain at the moment, I feel terrible. Like I'm having a bad mental health day. Some people still don't understand that. And again, people then go, oh yeah, but some people take advantage of that. People take advantage of everything, pal. And that is true. Lots of people, I don't want to say they pretend to have a mental health problem, because I would say if you are using your mental health as an excuse or you're over relying on it, do you know what that ties into? You're probably quite sad and you're probably quite down and you probably do need a helping hand. So I would actually say they're telling the truth even though they think they're exaggerating. But once we can get to that point where you don't have to feel like you're eating meat to be masculine, and you don't feel like the need you have to look like this, or you don't feel like the need you have to act this way, and you can just be super duper happy with how you are as a person, I think we as a human race will be in a better place. And that's a ridiculously over the top video to make. And if you've watched this and you think, Simon, I hate you now, I totally get it. It's way too on the nose. I mean, I had a few ideas of what I thought I was going to say, but that did come out of reading that article. And sometimes I think it's good to put good back into the world, or whatever this may be. So yes, if you do know who you are, I would once again tell you to embrace it. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to make a t-shirt that says warm and fuzzy and my tum-tum on it, you should do it. And again, I've told this story 1,000 times. There was one person that I think was a bit embarrassed that I was thinking about doing it. I said, Millie, you can't say that on a video. Of course you can. Why not? Again, as long as no one is offended by it, as long as there's no tum-tums out there that like this is offensive, which I don't want to do. I don't want to upset anyone, because again, I think there's enough reasons to get upset before you even start doing it yourself. Then everything is going to be okay. I draw a line under it there so it doesn't get too ranty and ravey. And ultimately, you should do what you want to do. Just respect other people. But like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Hit the bell ding ding so you know notifications going live. There will be a video on the screen. Please do give it a click. It's a fitness channel first and foremost. GorillaMind.com/Simon. You just go to Simon to get 10% off. I really do. I'm always happy to pimp their wares because I love all their supplements. Got a new box of stuff coming soon. Genuinely excited about it. They're awesome. Patreon.com/Simon316 in order to support me that way. Simon316 on Instagram and Twitter. I've got Cameo, personalized video messages. Just search for my name. Merchandise, pro wrestling tees, and Samson Athletics. Would love you to buy one of my ridiculous t-shirts. Always makes me feel good, all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. And that is it. Just remember that life is hard, but that's okay. Find who you are and just enjoy it, is what I would say. And it's not that easy because, of course, there's always going to be people out there that are trying to drag you down. But as my lovely mother once said to me, don't let the bastards get you. Sometimes it's nice and simple. Speak to you soon.